Looking for a summer camp that will nurture and challenge your students? If so, you need to check out the AD Players Theater Camp. Students will develop acting, script writing, and design skills through a game-based approach focused on creative expression, all while working on an end-of-camp showcase. Campers will thrive in a positive and encouraging environment centered on Christian values. The George Theater is proudly partnering with 3 locations across the city, and each camp is 1 week long, June 9th through August 1st. Space is limited, so sign up today, and scholarships are available. Learn more at adplayers.org/summercamps. The Texas coast is special to me, and my family has made countless memories there. This spring, it's time for you to do the same in Port Aransas. It's a place where family traditions naturally unfold, and you'll find beauty in the island views while taking time to relax between adventures. Just one visit, and you'll see why generations of Texans have anchored their traditions to the island life. Start your new favorite family tradition in Port Aransas, Texas. Plan your visit to Houston's beach at visitportaransas.com. Today on CityCast Houston, Apple is going to build a massive facility for AI technology right here in Houston. So I'm bringing on Chris Tomlinson, business columnist at the Houston Chronicle, to talk about what this means for our local economy and if H-Town is the next big tech hub. It's Monday, March 3rd. I'm Raheel Ramzanali, and here's what Houston's talking about. Chris, so Houston is known for oil and gas, but now we're going to get this massive Apple facility. It's part of a huge $500 billion initiative in Apple's AI technology. So tell me, what exactly will this manufacturing plant make?
Well, we are still learning a lot of new facts about it almost daily, but the best we can tell, it's going to be 250,000 square feet of advanced robotic manufacturing at a location probably near Wharton up at the Grand Parkway and Highway 6. If you've driven by the big Daikin Goodman air conditioner factory, that's basically where it's going to go. And I think the purpose is to build servers that will go into data centers and provide the artificial intelligence for Apple products.
Oh, wow. So this sounds like a big deal. And look, anytime when one of the biggest tech companies, if not the biggest, like Apple, announces a move like this, it made me immediately wonder, like, are we the next big tech hub? Like, are we going to give Austin a run for its money here?
Don't get ahead of yourself, Raheel. One factory does not change the city. Houston has a history with Texas Instruments and Compaq, and there was a time that we really were on the cutting edge of electronics manufacturing. We're not that anymore. And, this is a factory. This isn't where they're going to design the next Apple iOS. Okay. It's not where they design the chips. It's not even where they make the chips. It's where they assemble equipment. So it's not going to change the world overnight.
Okay. Could it potentially change it one day, you think?
Yes. And, it all is going to depend on what comes next. If Apple starts asking local companies to provide more of the parts that go into the factory, that will grow jobs. By creating this factory, you're going to be training a workforce. And when we have a more tech-oriented workforce, more companies will come to try to take advantage of that workforce. But Apple is a very first preliminary step towards rebuilding that electronics manufacturing strength that we had back in the 70s.
I saw that the Greater Houston Partnership, they were saying that this deal with Apple could, quote unquote, cement Houston as a leading manufacturing and tech hub area. Like, how much do you agree with that?
Well, the Greater Houston Partnership is the cheerleader for business in Houston, right? So they are prone to hyperbole. And we should always keep that in mind. Their job is to attract companies like Apple to Houston, and they've obviously succeeded in this case. there are many things that go into a corporate relocation. The most important in this case are workforce, cheap land, reliable electricity, and good transportation. And we have a couple of those. We don't have all of them.
Which ones don't we have?
We don't have the advanced manufacturing workforce. That's what we have to develop. You know, Houston Community College has got a great program in something called Mechanitronics. It's where they teach people how to assemble these robot factories. And it's a great program. It's why Daikin is here for making HVAC equipment. Hopefully, this will trigger even more of those workers to get trained and create more opportunities for companies to relocate here.
Let's say one day the city is like, all right, you know what? We do want to become this tech hub. We do want to become the next Austin. We've seen what it does for a city like Austin. I'm sure the locals of Austin are like, hey, hold on. It probably wasn't the best thing, right? Like there's not enough housing out there now. But if Houston said, all right, Chris, tell us, what would we need to do to become the next tech hub? What would you tell them?
Well, when you talk about Austin and Silicon Valley as tech hubs, what you're talking about is basically people working at desks, designing things, writing code, developing technology. For that, you need great universities. Silicon Valley is Silicon Valley because of Stanford.
Yeah.
Austin is Austin because of the University of Texas Computer Science Program and the Microcomputing Center. If Houston wants to be at that level, we need to double the size of the computer science and electrical engineering graduates at University of Houston and Rice and the other universities here in town. We're just not producing enough people for that.
Now, I know that the Ion District was like an attempt at this, right? And this was going to be this innovation center. And it still is, by the way, in Midtown. And there was this partnership that was formed between the city of Houston and Rice University. Could that help? And how has that worked out so far?
The Ion and Greentown Labs, which is right across the street, that is an incubator for new businesses. And it's working fairly well. It still has a lot of focus on the oil and gas industry, though. You don't see a lot of high-tech companies getting their start at the Ion or Greentown Labs. What you tend to see are energy companies and medical companies. And the Texas Medical Center is fabulous. It's a fabulous resource. It's the reason why we have so many med tech startups here. But it's got a long way to go to become a high-tech hub, the kind of thing that would build a new Apple or a new Texas Instruments.
Spring is approaching, and it's time to celebrate the blooming season in Bryan, Texas on April 26th at the Messina Hoff Wine and Roses Fest. This family-friendly festival is all about celebrating our iconic Texas spring with good wine and vines. There's going to be so much to do, like their grape stomp competition. It's a crowd favorite because you can stomp your heart out and compete against teams to become the champion of grape stomping. For those who want something more chill, you can sip on Texas Rosé and learn about how it's made. And a great festival isn't complete without fantastic food, so check out the class on food and wine pairings where you can combine robust reds with smoked meats and tangy sauces. Plus, the Vintage House at Messina Hoff is featuring a barbecue buffet with wine pairings selected by the winemaker himself. Celebrate spring in Bryan, Texas at the Messina Hoff Wine and Roses Festival. Check out destinationbryan.com for more information. I love the Houston Livestock Show and Rodeo, but parking at the rodeo is a hassle. So here's a tip to make your trip there stress-free. All you need to do is make downtown Houston your starting point and jump on the Metro's Red Line, aka the Rodeo Rail. It's so much easier than driving around in traffic by NRG Stadium looking for that perfect parking spot. And make the experience even better by coming to downtown early and exploring what downtown Houston has to offer. From getting a bite at world-class restaurants to grabbing a drink at one of the many hotspots. While you're there, you'll find really helpful Texas-sized rodeo signs guiding you to the nearest light rail where you jump on the Red Line. And if that's not enough, there's even going to be pop-up rodeo performances along the rodeo rail featuring live music with the next generation of rodeo superstars. To learn more about getting to the rodeo from downtown, text Downtown Rodeo to 56512. That's Downtown Rodeo to 56512. Downtown Houston is H-Town's original neighborhood, and now it's your starting point for the rodeo. Downtown Houston, get energized and revived. I'm going to go back to Apple real quickly. How many jobs is this going to create, this new factory?
Apple says it will create thousands of jobs.
Okay.
Now, how many of those are temporary construction jobs and how many will actually fill that building daily? I think we have to wait and see. You know, Foxconn already operates advanced manufacturing. That's the Apple partner that makes the iPhones in China. Mm-hmm. Well, Foxconn is also the company that's going to operate this factory for Apple once it gets going. They have a 200,000 square foot facility that employs 300 people.
Gotcha.
So, yeah, we'll see.
The person that's going to be employed at this facility, you know, what kind of skills do you think they're going to need? What kind of education? Can you even guess like how much they're going to get paid for it?
I would guess probably in the high five figures, you know, 80, 90, maybe $100,000 a year with a 2-year degree. You're going to be looking for people who can weld and solder and people who can assemble and maintain robots, which is no mean feat. It takes real skill to do that. You're going to need people who run the control board that controls the robots that actually do most of the work. So I think that's most of what you're going to see in the beginning.
You know, think about those jobs. I was reflecting on this, and yeah, this might not signal that we're the next big tech hub, right? But this signals that Houstonians are going to get jobs. Like people aren't moving in for these new jobs if Apple is like, yeah, you know what, this is the new tech hub, and we're going to open up another corporate office or something along those lines here. This is going to be great for Houstonians.
I think it will be. And I think it will be very good for working class Houstonians who work with their hands, which is really kind of the strength of this city, frankly. Mm-hmm. We are a great manufacturing town. We manufacture a lot of oil and gas equipment. We actually manufacture robots in Houston for the oil and gas industry.
Oh, wow.
You know, people get obsessed with who's got the PhD in artificial intelligence that's going to create the new Siri. Well, that's not nearly as valuable as hundreds of jobs of people actually making things with real skills and without huge student debt, right?
Yeah, that's so true. Why do you think Apple picked Houston and not another big city, right? When I'm thinking of Austin, cities in California, Detroit even, why Houston?
I think because we do have this very solid manufacturing history and a manufacturing workforce. Mm. You know, they have to make these AI servers in the United States because of export controls on the AI chips. We understand the chips are probably going to be made in Arizona and they'll drive down I-10. Okay. The plastic casings that the servers will go in will come from China up the ship channel. And so, you know, that intersection of the Grand Parkway and Highway 6 is the perfect place for the inputs to combine. And also, once the server's done, they can spread out across the country.
I love that.
So I think geography really made the difference here.
Yeah, that sounds like it's perfect, right? But I want to go back a few years, okay? In 2018, another tech giant, Amazon, completely skipped over Houston in a big deal. It was when Amazon was picking a city for its new headquarters, and it ultimately picked DC, but we didn't even make the short list. What happened there and what's changed now?
Well, it goes back to workforce, right? Because for Amazon headquarters, they were looking for those electrical engineers, those computer scientists, those artificial intelligence experts, which frankly, we just don't have here. Okay. Secondarily, it was pre-pandemic, right? And it was post-Hurricane Harvey. Hurricane Harvey scared a lot of companies from coming to Houston. The number of companies relocating here plummeted after that storm.
Oh, wow.
The unreliability of our electric grid has also discouraged companies from coming here.
Yeah.
I suspect this Apple facility will have its own backup power plant, so it won't suffer from those things. I think it's a combination of climate and workforce that kept Amazon away.
Oh, wow. That's another factor, right? Like we hear about home insurance spiking up for us here and thinking about all the other things from these major storms. I've never thought about businesses not coming here because of that.
It's a real issue. And I think it's also why you see these factories setting up in Wharton, which is a good probably 80 miles from the coast and doesn't have a history of flooding and lots of cheap land and reliable electricity.
What about water infrastructure? Was that a thing or is that a factor?
Water infrastructure is what needs to be built. These factories do tend to use a lot of water.
Yeah.
And I think we'll see in their permitting process, we'll find out how much water they need and whether or not they're going to need their own water plant.
Yeah. Did you find the timing of this announcement a little interesting? Because Apple broke the news after President Donald Trump imposed a 10% tariff on goods imported from China. He even met one-on-one with Apple CEO Tim Cook. How much of this deal has to do with the tariffs, do you think? And is this like more politics, PR? What's happening?
It's all of the above. Cook and Trump have a long history. When Trump first imposed tariffs on China during his first administration, Cook convinced Trump to give him an exemption on Apple products. He's hoping to get that same exemption again. In return, back in the day, Cook took Trump through a Apple manufacturing plant in Austin to help seal that deal. But this one, this deal's been going for a while. The Foxconn bought this land up in Wharton back in August. They started talking about this deal in October. Last week, President Trump announced a 10% additional tariffs on Chinese goods. And Cook really doesn't want to see that levied on Apple products. Mm-hmm. So making this announcement now, standing beside Donald Trump, is good for his business and will help him get the exemption he needs. So, Cook is trying to position Apple, and the more announcements like this he can make, the better.
All right, final thing, in the long term, how do you think this new Apple plant will pay off for the city of Houston?
It will not help the city of Houston very much because it's far outside the city of Houston city limits. Yeah. It will help the greater Houston area tremendously. We are going into a period where there are going to be fewer and fewer oil and gas jobs. I think drilling is going to slow down, and that means manufacturing for oil and gas is going to slow. Mm-hmm. And a lot of the people who can manufacture goods for oil and gas will find it easy to transition into this plant. Oh, wow. So it's all good. There's not a downside to any of this.
No downsides. Nothing concerns you?
No, not at all. We need to bring this kind of advanced manufacturing to the United States. We have the technology now to make things cheaper than cheap labor can make it in Asia. And so I'm very excited about Apple setting this precedent that we can make things here again.
Chris, thank you so much for all of this information and for this conversation. Can't wait to have you back on.
You're welcome. Thank you, Raheel.
That was Chris Tomlinson. You can read his work in the Houston Chronicle. Hey, send us your thoughts about H-Town potentially becoming the next big tech hub by sending us a message with the contact info in our show notes so we can read it on a future episode. Also, send this episode to 3 of your techie friends. And if you haven't already, drop us a rating and review wherever you listen. And please subscribe to the podcast if you haven't already. Thanks. That will do it for today. I'm Raheel Ramzan Ali. Thank you for listening, and I hope you learned something new.